I buy your masters. You ready? I will buy your masters.
The BMF empire is spiraling once again after Big Meech was seen breaking down in tears on camera, speaking out for the first time about the alleged $120 million scam orchestrated by Rick Ross. The emotional video, which quickly went viral, shows the once feared drug kingpin visibly shaken as he details how Ross's shady business dealings drained BMF funds and stripped away years of hard work.
Man,
career that you have any respect for?
Oh, no, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. I never wanted to work with him.
I built this from the ground up and he took everything, Meech said, his voice cracking as he recounted how the massive deal, originally pitched as a collaboration, turned into financial devastation. He accused Ross of manipulating contracts, redirecting profits, and betraying his trust for personal gain. But Meech didn't stop at heartbreak. He promised ruthless payback. This ain't over. Every dollar, every lie, every move, I'm coming for it all, he warned. The video has shocked fans and reignited debates over Ross's involvement in BMF affairs, with many now questioning his motives. If Meech's words are any indication, this isn't just a feud. It's the start of an all-out war that could shake the industry and rewrite BMF's future. Rick Ross just pulled one of the boldest industry moves we've seen in years, and it came at the expense of none other than Big Meech.
Rick Ross knew perfectly damn well what he was doing and what that would lead to.
Now word is, Meech finally confronted Ross over the situation, while 50 Cent wastes no time clowning both of them online. The story has exploded across social media, with fans treating it like the dramatic finale of a high-stakes reality show. But the question that's echoing everywhere is simple. What did Big Meech really expect would happen when dealing with someone who once worked closely with law enforcement and knows how to play the system? Ever since Rick Ross publicly threw Meech under the bus, 50 Cent has been relentless, firing off subliminals and veiled shots aimed at both Big Meech and Lil Meech across every social platform. But the most shocking twist came right after Big Meech walked out of prison just a few months ago. Instead of lying low or aligning himself with those who genuinely supported him, Meech was spotted living it up alongside Rick Ross, smiling for photos and treating the Miami mogul like a longtime ally. The move stunned observers, especially given Ross's long-running feud with 50 Cent. Many expected Meech to at least keep his distance out of respect for those who had stood by him during his incarceration. Instead, he appeared to embrace Ross as if nothing had ever happened, which some insiders say felt like a knife in 50's back. And if that wasn't enough, while Lil Meech continues to post about real power as a jab at 50, Big Meech turned up the heat even further by linking with Floyd Mayweather, another figure often tied to Ross's circle. The optics of these alliances have only deepened the tension, making it clear this saga is far from over. Yeah, Big Meech's name might have generated close to $50 million in buzz and influence, but at the end of the day, it was 50 Cent who actually built something tangible from it.
That Vlad, let's talk about it.
I think Meech is the one that made a mistake.
No.
No? You think 50?
No.
Lil Meech?
No.
Who am I forgetting now?
Rick Ross knew perfectly damn well what he was doing and what that would.
Meanwhile, Rick Ross has been playing a completely different game, using Meech's reputation as a pawn in a much bigger clout chase. Beyond manipulating Meech's image like a chess piece, Ross hasn't contributed much of real substance. He thrives on stirring headlines, soaking up attention, and fueling his ego, fully aware that the chaos surrounding their situation would eventually spiral into a viral spectacle. And once the drama started getting too hot to handle, Ross vanished just as quickly as he entered the picture, slipping out quietly before anyone could hold him accountable. The talk about Ross keeping his distance because of a supposed shoulder injury? Many believe that was nothing more than a calculated excuse to avoid facing criticism. In reality, the former correctional officer turned rapper was busy flipping the narrative and flipping wallets through his controversial Boss Token cryptocurrency scheme. After burning countless investors who trusted him with their money, the internet branded him Rug Ross, a reference to rug pull scams. Coincidentally, that same shoulder injury occurred just days after Ross was publicly called out for lying to Big Meech, a moment that sparked serious backlash online. Behind the scenes, Ross reportedly dumped the majority of those tokens, only keeping a small portion so he could flip the profits into lucrative real estate deals. Critics argue that if Ross hadn't been blocking Meech's lane with his self-serving schemes and opportunistic business plays,
Bad guy out of all of this.
Who's the bad guy? I don't think there's a bad guy.
No, yes it is.
Big Meech could have made a legitimate comeback in the industry. Instead, the former BMF figure found himself surrounded by bad decisions, misplaced trust, and moves that ultimately benefited Ross far more than they ever did him. And now Lil Meech is catching major backlash online as people clown the entire situation, pointing out how quickly that so-called brotherhood with Rick Ross fell apart. The collapse has become a talking point across hip-hop media, with actors, bloggers, and commentators all weighing in. Among the loudest critics is power star Michael Rainey Jr., who openly stated that he has zero sympathy for either Lil Meech or Big Meech. In his view, both men are grown adults who should have seen this betrayal coming long before it unfolded. 50 Cent, never one to stay quiet during conflict, doubled down on that same sentiment, throwing more fuel on the fire from his corner of the internet and reminding everyone that loyalty and foresight matter in this game. Everyone in the industry already knows that 50 doesn't play when it comes to personal beefs. DJ Vlad even chimed in, emphasizing that 50 Cent is the last person anyone should want to go toe-to-toe with because he'll tear the entire situation down just to make a point. And as many have pointed out, Big Meech isn't the first person Rick Ross has allegedly left hanging. The rapper has a history of abandoning people when things get tough. One notable example happened in Canada when members of his own crew were reportedly jumped while Ross slipped away, only to return later claiming he was testing their strength.
Turn it all down. If you piss him off, his own sometimes too. You know, he'll cancel BMF to prove a point. Regardless of how much.
It's a ruthless approach, but it reflects a pattern Ross has followed since the early days of his career. He calculates his moves carefully, always looking for an exit strategy if a situation stops benefiting him. Industry insiders believe he saw this fallout with Big Meech coming from a mile away, especially after Wack 100 publicly called him out as the real puppet master behind the escalating tension between 50 Cent and the Flannery family. And if that's the case, then Ross might have been orchestrating this dramatic collapse long before anyone else realized it. And what all of this ultimately led to was the realization that Big Meech never truly had a real ally in Rick Ross from the very beginning. Ross knew exactly what type of move he was executing. He hyped Meech up with promises about rebuilding his empire, stacking bread, and setting him on the right path, all while parading their connection publicly to make it seem like they were brothers. Behind the scenes, though, he was quietly manipulating the situation, subtly turning Meech against 50 Cent and fueling an unnecessary rivalry. But when it came time to show loyalty, everything Ross said turned out to be empty talk. Wack 100 wasn't exaggerating when he called Ross out. If Ross genuinely wanted to see Meech rebuild and reclaim his position, he would have kept their business low-key and focused on real opportunities. Instead, he chose to run his mouth, throwing shots at 50 and stirring up drama, despite knowing he would never secure the rights to the BMF series.
Feel bad for no grown man on this planet. Like, I'm a grown man. Why the fuck I gotta feel bad for another grown man? Like, you a grown man too, nigga. You asking for my sympathy for it, nigga. You be alright. Oh, yeah, nigga.
Now the silence speaks volumes. Ross has completely distanced himself from Meech, and all that hype about helping him has vanished. At the end of the day, Ross has always been focused on what benefits his own pockets, and Meech simply isn't part of that equation anymore. Word on the street is that Ross was actually the reason Big Meech's highly anticipated Welcome Home benefit event got canceled, but he let everyone believe it was 50's doing. According to insiders, Ross didn't want Meech gaining too much momentum or reclaiming influence. He preferred Meech sitting quietly in the background while he played the good cop role in public. Even when 50 posted a cryptic message and later deleted it, claiming he had nothing to do with the cancellation, the real story pointed right back to Ross's behind-the-scenes power moves. Many people underestimated Ross's level of calculation, but now everything is starting to make sense. That BMF tribute track he dropped, which Meech believed was a show of solidarity, was really just part of the larger manipulation. It was a strategic illusion designed to keep Meech loyal and distracted while Ross focused on securing control of the narrative for himself. And that's the deeper twist to this entire situation. Maybe the ultimate goal for Rick Ross was never about supporting Big Meech at all. Maybe the plan from the very beginning was to become Big Meech in the public eye, to embody that legend for his own brand and legacy. When you look at Ross's track record, it's hard to deny the pattern. Time and time again, he's built his persona and boosted his credibility off the names and reputations of real street figures, especially those whose stories already carried massive cultural weight. The most obvious example goes all the way back to the beginning of his career. Ross literally built his rap identity using the name of Freeway Rick Ross, one of the most infamous drug traffickers of the 1980s.
Lead to.
I'm doing right now. My shoulder broke, but we still getting to the money. We still count paper. This ain't a pumping.
At the time, the real Rick Ross was incarcerated, and by the time he got out, he was furious. He publicly confronted the rapper, accused him of identity theft, and even hit him with a lawsuit for trademark infringement in 2010. The legal battle dragged on for years, but by 2013, a judge sided with the rapper, ruling that his use of the name was protected as creative expression. Ross claimed he made up the moniker, but the undeniable truth was that his brand was already built on the reputation of someone else's legacy. And that wasn't a one-off move. Ross has repeatedly cozied up to real-life figures the moment they left prison, presenting himself as their ally while using their names to fuel his music and image. One of the clearest examples came in 2021 with Larry Hoover, another legendary figure in street history. Even while Hoover remained incarcerated, Ross repeatedly referenced his name in songs and interviews, not to help his legal fight, but to boost his own credibility and sell records. Critics blasted him for it, accusing him of exploiting real people's struggles while doing little to actually support them. Now, that same playbook seems to be repeating with Big Meech. Ross aligned himself with Meech the moment he got out, speaking on loyalty and legacy while simultaneously elevating his own profile. The problem is, this pattern has always been about clout and control, not about genuine support. And when someone has a history of flipping narratives for their own gain, it becomes clear why figures like 50 Cent have publicly stated they never respected Ross, not as a man, and certainly not as someone who understands real loyalty. Let's just say 50 Cent is likely grinning behind the scenes as this entire situation collapses under its own weight, and the best part for him is that he hasn't had to lift a finger to make it happen.
All of this.
Who's the bad guy? I don't think there's a bad guy.
No, yes it is. Yeah, Vlad, let's talk about it.
I think Meech is the one that made a mistake.
No.
No? You think 50?
No.
Lil Meech?
No.
Who am I forgetting now?
Rick Ross knew perfectly damn well what he was doing and what that would lead.
While chaos unfolds around Big Meech and Lil Meech, 50 has been quietly focused on bigger plays, locking in new business moves, stacking contracts, and building his next wave of projects, all while his rivals scramble just to stay relevant. Meanwhile, Big Meech and Lil Meech appear to be bouncing from celebrity to celebrity, desperately trying to keep their names in the spotlight and salvage their standing in an industry that's quickly losing patience. And adding insult to injury, Rick Ross recently attempted to clown 50 by calling him broke and mocking him for failing to secure a loan to launch his own film studio. That backfired spectacularly, because just days ago that very loan was approved. Now, 50 is officially in business mode, proving once again why he's one of the most strategic and resilient power players in entertainment. The irony runs deeper. Ross had even bragged about the idea of buying 50's masters just a few weeks back, a move that now looks laughable given how the tables have turned. Fans are roasting Ross online, saying he's likely furious behind closed doors as 50 continues to win without even engaging directly. That failed flex now serves as a reminder of just how quickly momentum can shift when real business moves are in play. At this point, it might be too late for 50 to step in and salvage Big Meech's comeback or pull Lil Meech back into his circle. The damage appears to be done, and the bridges may be beyond repair.
Feel about the rapper Rick Ross having the same name?
Well, the fact that he stole my name, not that we had the same name, he actually stole my whole story, my identity, the whole thing. You know, he built his career off of my legacy.
Commentators like Zip with the Drip, who had been warning from the very beginning that Ross would eventually betray Meech, are now saying this was inevitable. He predicted Ross would ultimately cut ties the moment it no longer benefited him, and that's exactly what happened. Now, the broader conversation among fans is that Big Meech's window of opportunity might be closed for good. What could have been a powerful return to the spotlight has instead turned into a cautionary tale about misplaced loyalty, strategic missteps, and trusting the wrong people. Many believe that his one real shot at a comeback was squandered, and that this public fallout could mark the end of his influence in the industry altogether. The fallout from this saga is sending shockwaves far beyond just Meech, Ross, and 50. It's becoming a defining moment in how the industry views loyalty, power, and legacy. Insiders are already saying this situation is likely to reshape future alliances in hip-hop, with artists becoming more cautious about who they associate with and what motives might be lurking beneath the surface. In many ways, this entire ordeal has exposed the darker side of the business, the side where loyalty is transactional, friendships are strategic, and betrayal is just another move on the board. For Big Meech, the reality is starting to set in. Once seen as a larger-than-life figure whose name commanded respect both in the streets and the culture, he's now facing the prospect of fading into irrelevance. Industry analysts believe the recent betrayals have damaged his credibility more than any legal case ever could. Without the right allies and with his public image taking repeated hits, rebuilding his influence might not just be difficult, it might be impossible. Rick Ross, on the other hand, has walked away relatively unscathed in the short term, but even his reputation isn't immune to the blowback. Fans and insiders alike are beginning to question how many bridges Ross has burned over the years and whether his relentless pursuit of clout and control will eventually backfire. If there's one thing this situation has proven, it's that Ross's loyalty only extends as far as his own interests, and that's a reputation that's hard to shake in an industry built on trust and relationships. And then there's 50 Cent. While everyone else is caught in chaos, he's now positioned better than ever. With new business ventures locked in and the narrative shifting in his favor, he's watching his rivals unravel while continuing to expand his empire. If anything, this mess has only solidified 50's status as one of the most strategic and feared figures in entertainment, someone who doesn't need to swing wildly to win the fight. At the end of the day, the story of Big Meech, Rick Ross, and 50 Cent is no longer just about a feud. It's about how power is gained, lost, and reclaimed, and how one bad decision can turn a comeback into a collapse. The industry is watching closely because this isn't just a moment, it's a warning. In hip-hop, loyalty without leverage is a gamble that almost never pays off. But in reality, the situation speaks for itself. This is the definition of poetic justice. As one viral comment summed it up perfectly. So let me get this straight. A former corrections officer flip-flopping on someone who spent decades behind bars and a two-faced hustler getting betrayed by another two-faced hustler. There's a word for that. Karma. And this time, karma didn't just show up quietly. It came crashing through the door, served hot and immediate. The irony is impossible to ignore. Big Meech's entire comeback plan seems to have backfired, while Rick Ross, who built an empire off the legacies of others, is now being dragged for the very tactics he's used on countless people before. It's a classic case of the hunter becoming the hunted, and a reminder that in an industry built on power plays and manipulation, no one stays untouchable forever. Now the question is, what comes next? Will Big Meech plot a calculated move to flip the script on Ross? Or has this betrayal sealed his fate for good? Will this be the last chapter in their saga, or just the beginning of an even bigger showdown? One thing's for certain. The fallout is far from over, and every move from here will decide who really walks away with the upper hand. Drop your thoughts down below. Do you think Meech is plotting revenge, or is this the end of the road? And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another deep dive into the wildest stories shaking the culture.